Good morning, good morning, good morning. You know what time it is, baby. You either get right or you get left. Hey, we got a special one for you today. We're going to talk a little bit about training camp that's coming up and a few other things that's going on around the NFL. Sit back, relax, and enjoy. We got you covered, baby. It's the Birdcage. Let's go. Birdcage. What's happening? What's happening? Training camp is here, y'all. We've been waiting. It's almost time. Football season is amongst us now. All the players have showed up to Flowery Branch. Now it's just time for the work to be put in as of who's going to make the team, what's going to happen, who's going to make the cuts, and really who's going to step up right now. Even though there are some guaranteed positions already in lock from guys that are paid, there's still going to be a lot of competition coming around this year for a training camp. So, I mean, wow. That's all I can say at this point is I'm excited, just like every other Falcon fan at this point. But sitting back looking at it, there's a lot of things that have to go right this year when it comes to this team. And as you can see, I'm rocking a Tennessee State University shirt today and a throwback hat. If you know, you know. The legendary Claude Humphrey started his career at Tennessee State University, and we drafted him as a number one pick. And I had to wear the old school hat just to pay a little homage to Big Clyde Humphrey. Rest in peace, sir. The greatest sack artist that we had in the Atlanta Falcons uniform outside of John Abraham. So, little something, little historical fact. Of course, got to live up to that moniker. But you have fans in waiting. People have been waiting for this day. It is finally here. Michael Penix Jr.'s era begins. It begins now. So, with that being said, you bring back Kirk Cousins at this point, $180 million backup. A lot of people got to see the Netflix series. A lot of folks got to see what was Kirk really like, and it turned off a lot of people. Not even gonna lie, kind of rubbed me the wrong way in a little bit, but hey, it is what it is. Not gonna sit there and cry about spilt milk. He's the backup. Michael Penix Jr. is the starter. Now, we have to worry about what this offensive line is going to do coming up this year because Penix is a big key to our success this year as the Atlanta Falcons get ready to take the field this season. Now, the question is this: can we protect his blind side? Is Caleb McGarry going to be pushed by Jack Nelson? Is he going to be pushed by Storm Norton? Yes, he's got the money, but who's going to be the better blocker? Because at this point, you have to protect your investment, your future investment, I might add. And at this point, all you can do is just sit back and just say, look, Nelson is a guy who's going to be coming in rough, raw, and rugged. I think he's going to be the future at that right tackle position. He can play multiple spots on that offensive line. Bergeron is secured. Chris Lindstrom is secured. We pretty much have our center secured in Ryan Neisel. And then you also have old faithful and Jake Matthews that's going to be starting. The right tackle is the position that I'm going to be looking for when we specifically say we're going to be looking at how that competition is going to stack up because, again, you're talking about Michael Penix's blind side. You have to be able to protect the kid's blind side if you want success. And it's not the fact that he can run or he has a quick release. You got to remember this. He's not going to always be able to have a quick release. He's not going to always be able to run. He's not going to always be able to do the things that we all can say that he's going to be good at or he's going to be able to do because there are going to be times that he's going to have to take sacks. It's just what it is. We don't want him to take that many, or you don't want him to take the sack that could possibly put him up on the shelf. This is why the right tackle position is very, very important when we talk about what's happening. What's going on, Jaden? What's going on, Atlanta Falcons Fandemic? What's happening, fellas? Thank y'all for tuning in and popping up. Um, it's a big day today. We all are looking at training camp. We're all looking at that. But getting back to what I was saying on the right tackle spot, McGarry is a guy that is a great run blocker. He improved on his pass blocking, but the question is, can it sustain? Is it going to be long term? Is he going to be getting whipped by the rookies at this point? And all I can say is this: games are won in the trenches. If you don't understand that by now, you might as well just go ahead and just sit back and call yourself a casual, because you can't win without a good offensive line and you can't win without a good defensive line. The pit is what they call it. As my guy, Mr. Perp on Twitter says, he calls it the land of the dancing bears. If you don't have a dancing bear that's going to be able to produce for you guys or put you in a position to keep your quarterback clean or keep your running backs in a great spot to where they can produce and put up some good yardage, you pretty much have already lost the season. So our running game isn't the problem. The pass blocking improved. We were listed from PFF as a top 10 returning offensive line. I'd like to see us get in the top 5, honestly. The pass protection is the one thing that we must get better at. And this training camp is going to be very critical that guys gel together and coach makes the right decision on who he's going to put on the field at that right tackle spot, and help the chemistry of this team. The next battle that we're going to talk about is pretty much the tight end battle. We already know Kyle Pitts is the number 1 tight end, first round pick. We don't have to go into that. But you have Charlie Warner, who's an NFL veteran, and you have Joshua Simon, a guy that's an undrafted free agent. As I've been telling people before, Simon is a guy that definitely is a guy that can, let's just put it this way. He is what Kyle Pitts was supposed to be coming out of college. Physical, fast, mean, can block. He does it all. Now, I feel as if you're going to use Pitts this year, you have to use him and use him to his strengths. Running seam routes, slant routes, using his body to shield himself from safeties and also corners that are on him or linebackers. And then the other way that you can do that is if you put yourself in a position to use him in the red zone because of his height. That right there is going to be crucial. What is Zach Robinson going to do with that tight end position? Are you going to use him in the slot more? Are you going to use him in the red zone more? Because here's the thing. He's a strider. He's made some great catches, but he's also dropped a lot. Now, the guys behind him are going to be crucial because, again, you have Charlie Warner, who's a hell of a blocker. He can catch and run, but you also have Joshua Simon, who's a little bit faster, who's a little bit better, who's just as good of a blocker as Charlie Warner, and he has better hands and a little bit more speed. So when you look at it, if they use 12 personnel or whatnot, you have to have packages for this undrafted free agent that is here. He's one of those guys that just has that it factor that challenges can challenge a room right now for a number 2 spot. Now, if Pitts doesn't perform this year, you pretty much got his replacement in that guy. Now, I want Pitts to perform this year because I expect my franchise tight end that was drafted number 1 overall to get some more touchdowns with Michael Penix Jr. I expect that Penix is going to light it up with this kid. So at this point, the backup tight end spot is really the most important because, again, you have to have great depth and you have to be able to use these guys in this offense outside of the wide receivers that we have. Now, we already know that Drake and we already know that Darnell Mooney are going to be starters. Ray McLeod, he has his spot, but the question is, is Nick Nash and Casey Washington or Quincy Skinner going to challenge him for that 3rd spot? Because, again, you got guys who can get open and do what they do. But Ray has earned his starting job because of what he produced last year. Very good receiver and brought a little bit of an attitude to the offense. Ended up getting a 15-yard penalty going back to the 5th Monday night game versus Philly. But I'm not mad at that because you have to have someone on this team with an attitude that's not afraid to stand on business and put hands on you to let you know that we're not going to be pushed around. So I think Ray has his spot, but I think when you talk about the backup spots, you got your Casey Washingtons. You have, like I said, your Nick Nash is an undrafted free agent. You have Kadero Hodge, who is a special teams ace, and I think he's going to keep the job because of his special teams prowess. And he also has made some great catches during the season, and he also won 2 games for us this year. with special teams effort and also his walk-off touchdown versus the Tampa Bay Bucks on that infamous Thursday night game, which will always be in Falcons lore. Now, here's the other question I have for you when we talk about the wide receiving core. Now, with some of the new additions that they have brought in or whatnot, I really believe that this wide receiver core is not lacking for anything at this point. It's not. And I don't think it's going to be much. I don't think it's going to be too bad of a situation to where we're hurting because if anybody goes down, we have guys that can step up, guys that can play, and guys that can produce at a high level. And Michael Penix Jr. can put those guys in a position to be great. We already see this. And that's one of the things that I'm paying attention to as well. So when you look at the receiving core, that ain't a problem. Running back, we already know Bijan is the starter. Now we have Tyler Algier as the second. Who's going to be the third? Who's going to be the third string running back? That is a very important spot. The reason I say that's a very important spot is because again, you never know how things are going to go. Now, knock on wood, we're praying that Bijan stays healthy, has another great year. But again, running backs literally are guys that can be replaced like that. Bijan is a great talent, but his running style is very dangerous. Is equivalent to a deer running through a minefield. Now, it's beautiful to watch, but there's always a possibility of non-contact injury because of how hard he cuts. And yes, he conditions himself, but you have to remember the human body is only built to take so much torque and twist. So you got Jace Corbin at number 3. I see you, Atlanta Falcons fandemic. That's another one that I was going to mention, but also you have some guys that are going to be coming in the woodworks that's quiet right now. You got a kid out of Michigan State that we have. You have a kid that they're bringing in from Sam Houston, who not only is a running back, he played receiver, and he also is a kick returner and a punt returner. Undrafted free agent. They're bringing him in. Runs a 4.3 and 4.2 unofficially. So when you look at that running back spot, there's talent there. The question is who's going to be the number 3 because that position is going to be up for grabs. That, as I said before, is a very important position when you talk about guys being able to not just produce, but guys being ready at any given moment that something happens. Because again, we run the ball in this offense. Nicks, bruises, injuries happen. It's part of the game. You have to have your running back room solidified. So I think that number 3 position is going to be very vital for us. And that's pretty much what I have for the offense. Special teams, Younghoe Koo, his job is on the line right now. You got a young kicker who's never been injured. Guy was hitting everything from 20, 30, 40, 50, and even a couple of 60 yarders. So when you look at it, Koo's job is on the line at this point. Koo, the last couple of years he's won games for us, but he's also been very inconsistent. And the consistency at that position is very crucial. Last year, you saw that when it came down to us playing the Washington Commanders, you saw that having a field goal kicker is very vital because that game right there literally could have put us in the playoffs to host a wild card game and also win the division. But because of that, we go into overtime and we end up losing that ball game. That game should have been over with. Now, getting back to the kicker position, you have to have a healthy kicker. You have to have someone that's going to be consistent. Who literally led the team in scoring during the Arthur Smith era at one point. Our kicker was the guy who was leading. The last time I heard about a kicker that was really leading and scoring like that and really winning games for a team consistently was a gentleman by the name of Mark Mosley that played for the 1982 Washington Redskins. Mark Mosley won the league MVP because of that year. That was a strike shortened season, but you had a kicker, the only kicker in NFL history to win the MVP. And he literally kicked the Redskins out of a ton of jams at that point. So all I'm saying is at this point, you really have to be honest with yourselves with Young Koo. Yeah, he's a fan favorite to a few people, but then it's a lot of people that are ready for him to go because of the inconsistency. They appreciate the great moments that he provided, but we finally got some competition at that kicker position. And that right there is going to be critical for us because we're going to be in some fights this year. And you have to have somebody that can fire the final shot to put down somebody. That's just how that goes. What's going on, Big Larry? Y'all check out the Dixon Way. He does all Georgia sports. He also does. Let me go ahead and just give you the spiel on that. He does. The ambulance is coming. See, this is the joys of doing bumper to bumper. You actually get real life at this point. You have He covers the Dogs, the Hawks, the Braves, the Falcons, and even his wife's lousy, stinking Gators or whatnot. So shout out to my boy, the Dixon Way. Y'all, please tap into it, man. The man is out here getting it in. He works harder than a Jamaican with 8 jobs. That's just how my boy gets down. But getting back to it, I think that, again, as I said, kicking in this position at this point of the season for us is going to be very critical on which way Raheem Morris goes. Because at this point, Koo's been injury prone. I'm gonna be honest with you on that. I'm kind of ready for Koo to we can let him go with grace and class. Let this young kid come in here and earn his stripes. That's what I'm feeling. Now, if I'm wrong for this, hey, I'll be wrong for it. I'll come back and say that. But I think it's time for us to part ways with Koo. Think we need some new blood on this team all the way around. We appreciate everything that he's done for us, but at this point, I just need a little bit more consistency from my kicker. Now, let's get to the fun part. Who's going to be the kick returner for us? I just mentioned the guy that came out of Sam Houston that the Falcons are going to be working out today that could possibly be our kick returner. I understand we have some great candidates or whatnot. D. Alford is still here. D. Alford has shown that he can be a return man. I don't see him as a starting DB for us. He'll be a rotational piece. He's still here. But here's the thing. D has also shown great potential as a return man. I think that we've lacked in that part on punt returning and kick returning, and we've needed some explosiveness. We've needed some explosiveness, and that is something that we've lacked in the special teams game. So I really feel as if once we figure out who we're going to use in the back and who's going to be sure-handed, who's going to be able to give this team a boost on the special team side of the house, I think that right there will give us another dimension, because the third dimension in the game at this point, I'll have to say, is the special teams. That's the third phase of the game that everybody forgets about. And I think that's the most important phase because we already know what offense and defense is going to do. Special teams wins games, whether it's stop, whether it's a fumble created, whether it's a late minute field goal. Competition is key on the special team side of the house. This is how a lot of the undrafted free agents that we have that we're all rooting for to get on this team that aren't going to probably start, they're going to get on this team. So when you talk about it, you're going to have a lot of guys who have starter potential that is going to be on this team going down, becoming gunners on punt coverage, being kick coverage men, being return men and blockers. There's a lot of guys that we have on this team that are going to be critical in that third phase of the game, until they get their opportunity to step on the field. And some guys, that might be the only time they step on the field this season. So you have to have the best of the best at that spot in the third phase of the game. So for me, I think we're going to see a lot of the undrafted free agents take jobs from some of the guys that have been here already with seniority. That's just me. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe I might be right about it, but it's just my opinion on this, and that's how I feel about the situation. Now, the other part of it we're getting ready to get to now, outside of the special teams, we're going to talk about the defense. We got to talk about the defense because now this is the part of the damn game that is going to solidify a few things. What's going on, franchise player? What's happening? What's happening? But when we look at our defense, you're talking about the defensive line. that we have to start with. You have Mr. Morgan Fox brought in, plays the zero technique. Got to find some more film on him, current film. But he's played for Raheem Morris. He's definitely solid at that defensive tackle spot, and really is a veteran that's coming here. I understand David Onyemata, we signed or whatnot. Morgan Fox was brought here to bring some competition and give this man a wake up call, because you have, after your first year, you disappeared last year. And what that means now is you're going to be in a spot to where you're going to have to compete for your job. You're fighting for your life right now. Race for your life, Charlie Brown. That's how I see it, if you remember the old movie. But getting back to it, David Onyemata's got competition. And it's not just with Morgan Fox. There's a young undrafted free agent that's here by the name of Simeon Barrow, who is the ACC player of the year, defensive player of the year, that came from Miami as an undrafted free agent with us. Raw, explosive, great power, a guy that can actually come through and make some things happen. He's one of those guys that's just different. But Miami has always produced defensive tackles, always. So I trust what comes out of Miami if we get a defensive tackle. The last D tackle that we had that we moved around was a man by the name of Calais Campbell. Enough said. Now, you have three guys competing, and then you got to remember Taquan Graham plays a couple of snaps at the zero technique, but I don't see him as a zero tech. We have our three guys that are going to be playing at that nose tackle spot. Just named them. Now, another competition that we're going to have is you got Rook Roro, and outside of Rook, you have, as I said before, Taquan Graham that's going to be competing for a job. And to me, I feel like Rook is going to do the damn thing. You got Brandon Dorless, you got Braden Trice. You have so many different competitions that are getting ready to happen on this D line. And I'm just speaking about the interior. I'm not talking about the edge rushers that everybody's thinking about. Let's talk about this interior, because here's the thing. We were just as soft as a jet puff marshmallow in the middle last year. If you look at where we got gashed at in the run game, it was in the middle because we got bullied. Now, there were moments that we stepped up and we did our thing, and I'm not going to lie, because we won some games. But if you ever look at how teams hurt us, it was right up the middle, because we didn't have a true brick wall sitting in the middle of that defense. That is going to be crucial to the success of this defense that we're running. And it's Coach Ollie's job, who we have now, that's going to be running this defense, to put us in a position to really, he's going to put us in a position to really explode. Coach Ollie has a great reputation. You can go back to the Houston Texans. You can go back to the Colts. All his defensive lines have been in the top of the league when it comes to pass rushing and being able to be a fortress and a wall. That is where my head is at. Everybody's talking about corners, the special positions, and all this here. Man, I got to talk about the trenches, because, again, we talk about the trenches, but no one really dives into the trenches and really looks at where we were soft at. We made a lot of plays, but we also gave up the draws a few times as well. So at this point, we have to see it. We have to see it. Brandon Dorless, you have to step up this year. You're in your second year. You've been an assistant for a year. I understand that you didn't play much last year, but now you've been in the system. You know the defense, and you have Coach Ollie. You have to perform. Braden Trice, same with you. You've got to perform. You got to get on the field this year, and they're very excited about what you bring to the table. But to me, I feel like it's all chatter at this point. You got to prove it, because everybody wants to say great things. The coaches, they're going to say that about guys, and it's kind of like how SEC media days. No one's going to reveal what the truth really is. Everybody's going to talk about what's what this guy's looking good. He's bringing this to the table. Woo, woo, woo. But here's my thing. We got to see it. because it sounds nice, but I feel as if the press conferences, the media days, and this is just me. Y'all don't have to believe it, but here's my thing. I feel as if a lot of the stuff that they say in the media is really like me trying to buy a used car. I have to go somewhere and listen to a slick car salesman sell me a bill of goods about a car that could possibly work or it doesn't. You don't know. You have to read between the lines with a lot of things. But then honesty is something that never comes out. And it's not just with us, it's with a lot of teams. You don't get the transparency that you used to get because again, the media runs with different narratives. The media puts a lot of things out that a lot of teams don't want. So for me, I've got to see it. There's a lot of work that needs to be done. I'm excited about this defense. I'm excited about what we're bringing to the table on paper, but I want to see it brought to life. I got to see it brought to life. That's the thing. So it's not that I don't believe we have good players because here's the thing, guys are good out of college. Guys are good when they're traded from where they were. But what can you do with them now? What can you take off the paper and put on the field and produce a winning product? That's the business I'm in. That's what I critique. You got your folks that like to break schemes down, you like to break things down, but I'm looking at it like this. Schemes never change. Players are like car parts. They come in and out. Some are bad, some are good. But the one thing that you know is that all car parts are replaceable. Unless the transmission just blows and everything just gets shot to hell. Now, the next position group that I'm looking at, that I look for to be in competition, is this linebacking core. Troy Anderson is a big question mark. Everybody's still trying to hype this up. He's a project player. He is a transformation guy. To me, Troy's not a linebacker. I don't even know why they have him in the room. I get Ulbrich likes his potential. Maybe Ulbrich is the one to bring it out of him. But you're talking about a guy that has only played linebacker 1 year in college. 1 year in college. And you're looking at the fact that Troy Anderson is a guy that puts people in position where he's made a couple of plays, but he spent more time in the Piedmont Resort. And if you don't know what the Piedmont Resort is, we're talking about the hospital. Than a lot of players on this team. It's great that he's got size. It's great that he can run, but we've got to see him produce. We have yet to see that. We've seen flashes, but we haven't seen it consistently because he can't stay healthy. And that's part of the game. Everybody's not going to stay healthy. All right, Fandemic, have a good one, my brother. Everybody doesn't stay healthy. Everybody's not in a position to where they're going to survive. That's part of the game. Now, you got JT Bertrand. You got Diablo from the Raiders. We already know who our main starter is at that middle linebacker spot. You know what I mean? Mr. Ellis. We don't have to speak too much about Mr. Ellis. And the other thing is this. When you look at the linebacking core that we have right now, very violent, smart, can run from sideline to sideline. The question is, who's going to be the two running mates? You got Jalen Walker, who plays edge and outside linebacker. Now, they're going to use him as an edge, but I know they're going to have packages for him as a linebacker because he literally did all of that when he was at the University of Georgia. James Pierce, outside linebacker / edge, but I kind of see him as just being a guy that's going to be a rush to quarterback type of player and play the run. When you look at this guy, you look at these young pups or whatnot that are going to be playing and competing for a job, it's going to be very interesting. It's going to be very interesting when you talk about how this linebacker core is going to be. Because if you see how Ulbrich has done this from when he coached for us during the Super Bowl run and the playoffs. And then you look at what he did with the Jets. Jeff Ulbrich is a guy who understands I got to have athletic linebackers. I got to have guys not only who can play the run and pressure the quarterback, I got to have guys that can cover the pass. The best example to me is that 2016 linebacking core that helped us get to the Super Bowl. They were athletic, they could run, they could hit. And I'm gonna be honest with you. I know it sounds crazy, but I actually compared those young linebackers in 2016 to that Grits Blitz defense linebacking core of Dewey McClain, Fulton Kuykendall, Buddy Curry, excuse me. I drew a blank, so y'all gotta forgive me. Al Richardson, you know what I mean? When you look at those guys at that day, they were ahead of their time. They could cover, they could run, and they had hustle. That is something that is going to pay dividends for this Atlanta Falcons team. It's going to pay dividends. Hustle. So I'm looking for that with this new linebacking core that we have. What type of hustle and what type of effort are these guys going to get? Because that is going to be the key for this linebacking core to be successful at this point. That is going to be the key. Now, the IQ is there. You can't have any dumb linebackers. Now, one of the things that I'll say, he's in the secondary, but because of what he can do as a hitter and a tackler, I would say it would not surprise me if we saw certain packages that we actually might see DeMarco Hellams as a weak side outside linebacker in some packages. If we're in a zone coverage, I can actually see him stepping down and being an outside linebacker at that point. So for me, I think he's a bit of a tweener because his coverage skills aren't the greatest, but I think he would play well into being a tweener and being able to be used with the weak side outside linebacker, or better yet, the will position for my football heads out there that understand what I'm saying. I think he would actually help. Speed, he comes up, he hits, and he could actually be a guy that can pay dividends for us with blitzing because of the speed coming off, pretty much coming from that weak side. I think he can do it. Now, moving on from the linebackers, we got to get to the secondary. AJ has his spot shored up, but we also need AJ to have a little competition on him too, to push him to even be better than what he was last year. Jerry Gray got a lot of great things out of him, but we got to get more. Got to get more. He's one of the best in the game, and there's nothing wrong with us getting more out of him because the better he plays, the better it looks for our defense, and the better it sets us up for success. He's the top dog, he's one of the top dogs in the secondary. Jesse Bates, we already know that position is on lock. The thing that we don't know at this point, who's going to be the nickel corner? Who's going to be the right corner? Because Mike Hughes, okay, you got the spot, buddy. You got your money. But if you can't be consistent or stay healthy or whatnot, that right there is going to open the door for some of these young guys that we have, like a Kobe Bryant, like a Dante Manning out of Oregon that we brought in. And Clark Phillips III, what are we going to do with him? Because, again, he's played outside corner his whole time. Are we going to use him as a nickel? Or are we just going to go ahead and throw Billy Bowman at that nickel spot and have a young guy that eats, sleeps, and breathes football in that spot? Because Bowman is a guy that's already turning heads. You got veterans talking about this guy's aggressive nature, and they're not even in pads all the way yet. When the pads strap up and they start clicking, Bowman is going to be that guy that it's going to be real nasty. Now, we already know Xavier Watts is going to be the guy that's probably going to be starting right next to Jesse Bates. Even though we have Kendall Fuller, I believe later on in the season, Fuller might lose his job. But the reason why Fuller will probably get the job is because he knows Raheem Morris's defense, played for him with the Rams, came over from the Panthers and has been a solid player. Now, the question is, can Fuller hold on to that job? That right there is going to be the great equalizer when we talk about competition. That is going to be your competition right there. There's a lot that comes with this in this secondary. You got people that are just going to be fighting tooth and nail. I don't think D. Alford even makes the starting roster. Maybe he's a rotational piece, but hell, he might just end up being a special teams ace because of all the talent that's here. D. Alford has had many opportunities. I think he's a solid player, but can he hold on to his spot? Or is he going to get bumped for one of these new guys that are going to be coming in to this team? And then you got to also remember this too. The Falcons are going to be inviting players to come work out. That is something that no one is talking about. Yes, we have players that we had as undrafted free agents, but you got to remember, a lot of guys got cut last year. There are a lot of guys that they might like film on. They're going to bring them in to compete. This is something that we have not seen in a long time here in Atlanta, Georgia. We haven't seen true competition. And for those that are going to training camp today, you're going to probably end up being in for a treat. They're going to probably keep things interesting for the fans. But I'm just going to be honest with you. We already know they're not going to show anything. I think the competition is going to be interesting. You guys are going to be treated well. You guys are just going to see them run through things. But you're not really going to see these guys really get after it. But I want you guys to have fun. Stay hydrated out there too, folks. That's something else that we don't want to hear about is any Falcon fans passing out there. Stay hydrated. Enjoy the atmosphere because you have winning in the air right now. You have a chance to be a part of seeing the team that's going to probably win the NFC South this year. I stand on that. A lot of people I've talked to and on Twitter, X as we call it now, but formerly known as Twitter, many different NFC South spaces, and they really see us as the same Falcons. But when you sweep the division champs, when you split with New Orleans and split with Carolina, that right there kind of left a crawl, in my stomach. Just made me just. But I think we take the division. The division is weak for number one. Outside of the division being weak, the division also is very, very winnable at this point. And with the division being winnable at this point, you have no choice but to, if you don't win the division, get rid of Raheem. And unfortunately, Myles Garrett has said it on multiple platforms. He said it on mine. He's also said it on Smitty's Sports Machine. Y'all check him out. And also Chris Tiltmore, aka A1. You guys check out his platform. We did something called the Slow Burn yesterday. We've been doing a series of former Falcon players and their jersey numbers and what they brought to the table and what they've contributed to the organization. You guys can check that out. Definitely worthwhile. But as we sit back and pay attention to everything else that goes on, there's a lot, not just competition wise, that has to be brought to the table. There's a lot that has to be brought to the table from our head coach. This is a get right. Hey, as we say in the birdcage, you either get right or you get left. This is you either get right or get left type of year for Raheem Morris. If he doesn't get right, he's gonna get left. And the last thing that you want right now is to have to go in the coaching carousel again. A lot of the fans don't trust Raheem. That was said last night in the eye test. John, shout out to John, the Cricket Deacon Harris, Ron, Winston, C-Dub. They definitely put that out there. James, and we also had Coach that was talking about it. For me, I look at it like this. Raheem's got to bring competition even in that coaching staff. Because if he gets let go, don't think that the Falcons won't explore the option of having Jeff Ulbrich as a head coach. Just saying. So Raheem's got to get it right this year because outside of a lot of bad press conferences last year. If you saw the Netflix series, things didn't look good with him when it came to how he handled that Kirk Cousins situation. It made him look like I'm gonna go ahead and say it. I don't like talking about folks like that, but hell, we got to be honest about it. It made him look like a bumbling idiot. That's the best way I can describe it. It made him look like a bumbling idiot. And he's got, if he gets to the playoffs and wins the division, that right there gets really pushed to the side because you've now atoned for your mistake. It's pretty much as they say, you cast your burdens on the altar. Your burden is Kirk Cousins. Your burden right now is pissing away the division. You got to cast that to the altar. We need some holy water on it. We need some prayer hands, some communion, like we say in the benediction. But winning cures everything. And if you are trying to win back the trust of this city and the trust of this organization and franchise, Terry Fontenot gave you the pieces. You got to win. No excuses at this point. No excuses. So he's got to bring that because he's got a coaching staff with guys that are very competitive, guys that want to win, guys that are hungry. And with this type of roster that we have in Atlanta, and in any individual that is competent at being a head coach should win a weak division that we play in and have a guaranteed playoff spot. So with that being said, ladies and gentlemen, I definitely appreciate you guys tuning in. I went a little late this morning because I'm a little late this morning. It happens every once in a while, but it's training camp. I wanted to make sure that I got with everybody and wanted to holler at everybody. But please, please, please check out the Birdcage LLC tonight. We have our show tonight, 8 p.m. Myself and the magnificent Birdcage crew will be in the building. We might have a special guest tonight joining us to talk a little bit about training camp. But again, 8 p.m. tonight, as we say, you either get right or you get left. Y'all get to this money on y'all, or better yet, as we call it, get your pockets on the green diet, that salad, aka the money, so you can pay these bills and keep them off your ass. So be blessed, be positive, enjoy the experience, ladies and gentlemen. Hey, the Penix era begins, baby. Let's go. Ghost.